Howdy, my name is Nonat, and today we are going to be ranking every single variant rule that appears in the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Game Mastery Guide. Now, a few things to keep in mind here. A. This is all my opinion. You may love a rule that I hate, or I may hate a rule that you love, and that's totally fine. Just keep it to a civil discussion down in the comments. I have seen some crazy comments attacking and insulting other people's opinions down there, so I'm asking you to keep it chill. I'm looking at you, Jeff. We all just love talking about games here. Number B, I have not played with every single one of these rules. However, I have played a fair bit of Pathfinder 2e at this point, so I have a good idea of how they would play out at the table. So keep in mind that there may be some cases where I just don't see the beauty of a variant rule because I haven't seen it in action. Letter 3, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Whether you've gotten to use these rules or not, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on different variant rules that kind of jump out at you. Yes, you too, paragraph writers. This is the chance to tell me everything you want to tell me about Pathfinder 2e variant rules. As always, I'll be reading every single comment, and I'll be trying to respond to a fair amount of them. And feel free to comment on other people's comments as well. I would love to see some cool discussion come off of this video down in the comments. Especially because there is just so much to talk about here. And finally, D, I will not be going into heavy detail for any of these rules. If I went into a full explanation of every single rule as I ranked them, we'd be here for hours. If you want to know more about them, I highly recommend checking them out for yourself. I'll leave a link in the description to the variant rules page on Archives of Nethys, where you can check out all of them absolutely free. Now let's go ahead and get on with it. Starting off with Gradual ability boosts, which is a solid A tier to start with. Rather than getting these massive explosions of growth randomly at levels 5, 10, 15, and 20, I love getting one single boost every single level, getting a little bit better every time you level up, rather than just randomly getting so much better at everything it's not for no reason, but you know what I mean? The only holdup for this variant rule, and in my opinion, the only thing keeping it from S tier, is that you still can't level up the same ability score twice in the same bracket of 5 levels, and this makes it a little bit awkward, so you need to keep track of which abilities you've boosted in the last 5 levels. So if you boosted Strength at level 2, you can't boost Strength again until at least level 6 after into the next 5 level bracket, and it gets a little bit weird and clunky. But still a solid A tier. Thirsty. The point buy system gets a C tier from me. Even for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, this is way too overcomplicated for my tastes. Paizo tried really hard to keep their Ancestry boost and flaw system in place, which led to a kind of gross, overcomplicated mess with ability points and different scores cost different amount to increase, which is normal, but you've got flexible ability points and dedicated ability points depending on your Ancestry, and there's 3 different charts to follow, and it's a lot. I know some people love point buy, and if you really want to use it, more power to you. But it is not my cup of tea. The alternative scores variant rule. Most people might not know about this one. This one splits dexterity into 2 different stats known as dexterity and agility, and completely removes constitution, just combining it with the strength stat, so strength does both, as well as removing will saves from wisdom and putting them into charisma. This gets a D tier from me. I really wanted to like it, but I think an alternative score system needs to simplify, not expand, if you know what I mean. With how many changes this comes with, you need to overhaul half of the Pathfinder system to go along with it. You know, certain skills and abilities now use agility, not dexterity, but other things still use dexterity, and anything to do with constitution, like a saving throw, is now based on your strength. And I just don't like the way they went with it. I wanted to like it, but it's just a bit too much. Extreme Good and Evil. B tier. This one's interesting. This is an alignment system simplification. Nothing has an alignment unless their alignment makes up their being. So normal people on like the material plane do not have an alignment. You know, they still have beliefs and different things like an anathema, but celestials are still good aligned, and fiends, devils, demons, they're still evil aligned. Even clerics and champions no longer have an alignment. They still have to follow their beliefs and follow their anathema, but they are not considered good or evil. Speaking of extreme good and evil, can you believe there are some people who have not subscribed yet? Good lord, I feel bad for them. At least you're not one of those people. Right? Incremental alignment. C tier. It's fine, and I know some tables will love this rule, but man, does it overcomplicate something that doesn't need to be complicated. Rather than having 9 choices, everything from lawful good down to chaotic evil, you now have 49 choices, because you can be lawful, somewhat neutral, somewhat evil. There's 7 steps from lawful to evil, and 7 steps from... There's 7 steps from lawful to chaotic, and 7 steps from good to evil, and you can combine any 2 of those steps to be your character. So you can be, you know, a somewhat evil, somewhat lawful champion. It reminds me of those pain charts from the doctor's office. On a scale of 1 to 10, how evil are you? I really just kind of like it because it's a little bit silly. I am a somewhat good, somewhat chaotic rogue.
Where's my stocking?
Somewhat good. No alignment. This variant rule gets a solid B tier just because it works. Oftentimes when you take alignment away from your players, you get more believable characters. Again, there's only 9 choices, or in cases of 49 choices, it's still hard to nail your character down in every situation. The only problem I have with this variant rule is that certain players will likely abuse it to steal and hurt their fellow players because that's their character. But to be fair, those players do that anyway, even with an alignment system. The Moral Intentions variant rule gets an A tier from me, and they just stole it from Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I love the D&D 5e bond flaw system during character creation. Having some roleplay built into your character sheet is so phenomenal, and having your character do this is pretty much the same thing. You know, you write down 3 statements that make up your character. I will get great and wealthy. I will marry the perfect partner. I will save those in need. It makes much deeper of a character than just an alignment. On that note, I wouldn't go as far as to call this a full variant rule, as it doesn't change any rules. But it does force your players to actually put some thought into their backstory. Even 3 little sentences and statements can make all the difference. Oh boy, deep backgrounds. No one's gonna agree with me on this. I'm giving it a B tier. Most people would give this a way lower score, and I would too if I didn't love crunchy systems that still work well. The thing I love about this variant rule is that it is perfect if you have no idea what character you're going to play. The TLDR for how it works is there are 6 charts you have to roll on. These decide things like family size, homeland, important relationships, etc. And each one you roll, along with becoming part of your character's backstory, also determines different ability boosts, skill feats, and lore skills that you get access to. After rolling all 6 charts, you get to pick 2 ability boosts, a lore skill, and a skill feat from those you've unlocked through your roll decisions. Would I 9 times out of 10 prefer to just say, I want to be a miner, what does that come with? Yes. But for that 1 time out of 10, I would love to roll on these tables, especially when I just have no clue what to do. I would like to roll on these tables first, and then decide my character class based on what I rolled. I think that sounds like a ton of fun, especially for a campaign using the level 0 variant rule, which we'll be getting into later. But yeah, solid B tier. I think most other people would give it a C tier or lower. The dual class PCs variant rule. For its ranking, it depends. When you use this variant rule, you pick 2 classes, and you get almost literally everything from both classes, aside from some specific stats that you don't double down on and just take the highest, like hit points and saving throws. Overall, it's a simple and easy to include rule, but on a normal-sized group of, let's say, 4 players, I give this a C tier. You'll almost never hear me say this, but this variant rule gives players way too many options. You know, if you are a wizard, sorcerer, dual class, you get 10 cantrips and 3 wizard spell slots and 3 sorcerer spell slots, and that's at level 1! But in the case of a small group that still really wants to play, let's say you have a GM and 2 players, I give this variant rule an A tier. This allows that smaller group to take on much grander challenges than they'd normally be able to withstand. You know, that wizard fighter dual class is gonna be not quite as strong as a full wizard and a full fighter party, but pretty dang close. So rather than these 2 level 4 characters struggling to beat a group of giant rats, they can actually fight some things that are probably closer to their party level as if there were 4 of them. The free archetype variant rule gets an S tier. What did you expect? It's my favorite way to play Pathfinder. There's nothing else to say. If you want to hear me talk about it, check out the video up in the corner. Moving on, S tier. Simplified Ancestries, from me, gets a C tier. Now, this variant rule will work very well for certain campaigns, namely low fantasy. You only get your Ancestry stats, like hit points, your heritage, and you are forced into only being able to take the lore skill from your Ancestry. You cannot take any other Ancestry feats at first level or at any other level. That's it. That's everything you get from your Ancestry. That's the rule. It's simple, and it definitely makes the Ancestries very balanced. You know, just because one has better feats than the other doesn't matter anymore. They're all pretty much just a skeleton for you to slide your class over. But at the same time, it does lose a lot of flavor from your Ancestry. Simplified skill feats. F tier. I don't get it. I mean, I really don't get it. This variant rule removes skill feats. Characters do not gain skill feats anymore. Rogues, it says, should still gain skill feats at the same progression as a normal character in the core base rules, but normal characters do not get skill feats. Even if something like your background gives you a skill feat, you don't get it. This is strange to me, but maybe it's just a way to simplify the game. Maybe a group wanted to play Pathfinder 2e, but thought it was too complicated, so they checked out this variant rule to remove skill feats. But here's the thing. If they already think Pathfinder's too complicated, they're not going to check out the game mastery guide to make it simpler. They're just going to go play something else. Also, removing skill feats doesn't really make the game that much simpler. It just removes a couple of options from each character. F tier. Level 0 characters variant. S tier. It's the ultimate session 0. The only downside is that you'll only ever get 1 or 2 sessions of use out of this variant rule per campaign. But I love it. Everyone's abilities are so similar, but everyone has, 1 or 2 little things they're slightly better at. It's these level 0 sessions that can help define characters, even for players who have no idea what their character's going to be like yet. Maybe they're all just peasants who are drafted to protect the village from an onslaught of, rats or something, and at the end of the fight they all realize, oh, we've got a knack for combat, let's go be adventurers! Or you can even go super cheesy, and at the end of the combat, a powerful wizard approaches them and is like, yes, you are all the chosen ones. I grant you the powers of the mighty fighter! Like that D&D cartoon.
Ranger? Barbarian? Magician? Thief?
You know what I'm talking about. TLDR, it's a great way to start a new campaign, especially one that's gonna go on long form. Automatic bonus progression gets an A tier from me. This one looks really strange at first glance, but it makes so much sense. As your characters grow in level, their power should reflect that. They shouldn't feel strong because they got a fancy new weapon that deals 2d10. They should feel strong because they leveled up and now they deal 2d10 with their current weapon. It's a fantastic representation of their skill with their equipment improving, rather than their equipment improving their skill. And I love this as a GM too, because it opens so many doors for me to give them unique magic items without them falling behind in stats. Rather than feeling forced to give the fighter a +1 striking longsword because he's level 4 now, instead he gets those bonuses automatically, and I can give them cool unique things like a set of full plate mail armor that changes shape to match whoever's wearing it. Proficiency without level gets... I'm gonna save the ranking until the end. Personally, I prefer the massive numbers rolled in high DCs of the Pathfinder 2e base rules. But I know that not everyone feels that way. In fact, I constantly get comments from people saying things like, "Ugh, I hate the massive numbers in Pathfinder 2e, but at least there's the no level to proficiency variant rule that saved the game for me." So, if this variant rule saved the system for you and let you have a ton of fun playing it, then it's not a bad rule. I may not like it, and it is my list, but it's done some good things for the whole system. So I'm going to give Proficiency Without Level a B.5 tier. And the final variant rule is the Stamina variant, which I'm going to begrudgingly give a C tier. I would have liked to give it more, but let me talk about it. This is for a very specific type of game. Something like, again, low fantasy or a dungeon crawl is great for this variant. It allows for longer in-game days without taking long rests, and it conserves spell slots and consumables so you can keep fighting. The splitting of health into two pools of stamina and hit points can get cumbersome and clunky though, especially because it makes healing items and healing spells far less effective. Since spells and healing potions can't restore stamina, and stamina makes up 2/3 of a character's health in this system, healers and alchemists become far less needed and far less effective at what they want to do. There are definitely ways to slightly modify this system and make it a little bit better, but as it's written, it is a C tier. And that is all of the variant rules in the Game Mastery Guide for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I want to know what you guys thought. What's your favorite variant rule? What's your least favorite variant rule? How would you fix one of the ones I rated low? Tell me how I was wrong, politely. This was just a video I felt like making. We're hopefully going to get some information in the next few days about moving back into my apartment, but until then, I'm still in the hotel room trapped in these four walls. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons who have helped me through this tough time. Thank you all so much for your support. If you're interested, there are links in the description to my Patreon if you would like to back me financially. We have some cool goals that are coming up. There are also links to my Discord. We are closing in on 500 members, which is awesome. There are also links to my Twitter and my Ko-fi. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.